48 years now, the United Nations Development Programme has been operating in roughly 170 nations around the world, experiencing the dream of enhancing environmental protection, governance by democracy, and to reduce poverty across the world. The United Nations Development Programme is one of those agencies accompanying nations across the world to ensure there is resilience in governance. And annually, she supports about 26 elections across the world as societies move forward. A year before the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals deadline and 2 years before the Golden Jubilee of the agency, how does the United Nations Development Programme see itself? My guest today on Globewatch is the Assistant Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme, who equally doubles as the agency's Regional Director for Africa. ABDOULAYE, thanks very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Charles, for giving me this opportunity.
Ghana became the first sub-Saharan nation to achieve Millennium Development Goal #1, which is reducing extreme poverty and hunger by 2015. Why was Ghana so successful?
Ghana was extremely successful because they had a very strong leadership. And leadership is critical in implementing the Millennium Development Goals. And Ghana has also developed an awareness campaign so that the people and the community understood exactly what was the objective of the goals, what we wanted to attain. And those are the recipes for success. A vision and a strong adherence of the people, including the civil society. So Ghana gave us a lesson that we are replicating all over the world. In addition, they have been accelerating, implementing what we call an acceleration framework to speed up the implementations of the MDGs by trying to remove binding development constraints in all sectors. These are successes that we have seen in Ghana, and we are not only replicating in Africa, but all over the world.
What role did the United Nations Development Programme play in that Ghanaian success story?
We are a close partner to Ghana. We have conceptually developed in UNDP what we call the MAF, the Millennium Development Goal Accelerating Framework. So it's UNDP who designed that framework, and in partnership with Ghana, did mobilize resources so that all resources can trickle down all the way to the communities. It's where you can feel the real dent of these MDGs. And that's what we are really trying to replicate all over the world.
I'm sure that you are aware that Africa is one of the areas where development challenge is much to the United Nations Development Programme. Why is it easier for this agency to operate in Europe, to operate in Asia, to operate in Southern America, where there are more developing countries like in Africa, but it's quite difficult to count success stories in Africa?
Number one, it's not easy nowhere. Development is a very complex exercise. And as we say, every country has its own initial conditions. You have to work with those conditions. And in Africa, we do have successes. And we have difficulties. I'll come back to it. But Africa is what we call the last frontiers.
Which one outweighs the other, successes or failures?
You have to work, development is working on both, but if I were to sum up, I would say successes. The last 15 years, Africa has been the growth place of the world, 5, 6, 7% of growth rate. Some countries like Ethiopia or even Rwanda have a double-digit growth rate. So Africa is a success story. But it's a halfway through, and it's a half-baked success story. Even on the economic growth side, it's not trickling down to the people yet, as we wish, we would wish. But I'll come back to it. That's why we are supporting the African countries through what we call structural economic transformation to ensure that the economic growth trickles down to the people. But that's the part of the success. Unfortunately, we have difficult situations like what we are seeing now in Central African Republic or in South Sudan. And that's part of our challenge to how do we help this country stop the cycle of conflict, engage into economic recovery, and build community resilience. That's the dual way of doing our business. Support those countries that are growing so that their growth can translate into human development. And those countries that are falling back, try to stop that spiral and then help them recover.
Last year, the United Nations Development Program spent close to $1 billion in Africa helping development efforts. Which were the key priority areas in which that money was spent?
Let me qualify. What we do yearly is more than $1 billion around the world. Is 5 billion average per year.
I'm concerned with the African figure.
And 2/3 of the 5 billions go to Africa. It's much, much more than the 1 billion. So that's the investment of UNDP around the world. Now, it goes in critical sectors like governance. And we have seen that this impressive growth that you are witnessing in Africa, one of the critical factors has been good governance. And African countries have really improved their governance. So that's one of our biggest portfolio. Our second portfolio is poverty reduction, but going beyond poverty reduction and ensuring that development is really inclusive, that the youth is part of development, woman is part of development. So that's our biggest second portfolio. And the third one is supporting countries to fight vulnerabilities and to enhance resilience. Economic resilience, social resilience, and environmental resilience. Those are the three big portfolios that UNDP is unfolding around the world, especially in Africa.
Okay, you were talking about enhancing youth, women, and many others. Your agency sources indicate that about 250 million Africans will face water shortage by 2020. Yes. How can that be avoided? Yeah.
The way we operate as UNDP or as UN is in a team fashion, and some agencies are more focused on the water issues. We are supporting, we're working in the UN country team, what we call UN country team. It's not really our line of expertise, but our resident representative in UNDP is also the resident coordinator. And in the line of expertise of water, we work with other agencies like UN Habitat, UNICEF, and others.
When you see every day there are a series of conflicts emerging, rising, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, can you really count success in those areas?
Yes, if you look at the global picture, success is there. I mean, I would say that 90% of Africa is really doing successfully. Of course, you have 20% of difficulties, but where we have really to invest. And the down payment that I see to create peace and for conflict resolution is development. That's why our investment is heavily tilted to development. Where you have development, where you have the promotion of human rights, you have peace. It's very important. Unfortunately, you have some countries that are falling down, and we have to invest in that. And the way to ensure that we invest in peace is to invest in national reconciliation, community development, and community resilience. That's the line of activity that we are unfolding as UNDP to help countries get out of the grooves, which is insecurity and then conflict.
And then in post-conflict situations, what do you do?
In post-conflict situation, we help countries to build back better. Not just building back to the situation where they were, but building back better. But ensuring that we first deal with the root causes of conflicts, which very often are exclusions and inequalities. So we address those issues and help them build back better through national reconciliations, settlement of peace. But we also deal with impunity, because most of this conflict, we have seen it in Sierra Leone and other parts of the world, are fueled by not dealing with the impunity. And as the international community and UNDP leading on that, we help address the issue of impunity.
With me is a summary of the Human Development Report 2013, published by your agency, and the title is The Rise of the South, Human Progress in a Diverse World. Is there really development in South? Because when I understand South here is developing countries, when I see poverty, misery, uneducated people around me all the time, and you say the rise of the South.
Yeah, absolutely, and the rise must be proud to see the rise of the South. If you
what kind of rise are you talking about?
See all these emerging economies. They are from the South. Look at India, look at China, look at Turkey.
But you have massive unemployment, massive inequality gaps. massive capital tapping.
Absolutely, I'll come back to that, but you have to look at the trend, how it is moving. Some 50 years ago, you have all these countries that were having maximum $500 per capita in revenues. Today, average Africa has doubled in per capita, and some countries have gone beyond. So the South is rising, and I was giving you the example of India, China, Turkey, but here you have the rise of what's going on in South Africa. And I'm proud to see what is being done by countries like Rwanda or Cape Verde or Mozambique. So Africa, I mean, the South is rising, and within the South, Africa is rising extremely fast. And I can tell you that Africa, again, is the last frontier for development. If you see all the big investors rushing to Africa, they know exactly that Africa is a place where you have high return of investment. So yes, Africa is rising.
You just mentioned Rwanda.
Yeah.
I just wonder how the United Nations Development Program functions in Rwanda, in a transformed country today, because during the 20th anniversary of the 1994 genocide, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said, quote, "The UN is still ashamed." How do you work in Rwanda, considering the fact that there was a snail work attitude in 1994 by the UN family?
I wouldn't come back to what happened in the past. The international community failed Rwanda, but I'm looking at the future. And UNDP and the UN at large has been and is a very strong partner of Rwanda. We supported Rwanda develop their long-term vision, and we are supporting it and follow their development program.
Which were the main areas of support? Certainly, you were not supporting all the areas.
Yes. What is critical is governance and institutions. You can't do development if you don't have strong institutions. You cannot do development if you don't have inclusive governance. And our investment in Rwanda has been critical in that area.
You are talking about governance. You know, most Africans, when you talk governance, they limit it to the presidency, the prime minister's office, the ministers. When you talk of governance which has to impact directly the local population, what are we actually talking about?
It's a good question, and governance is bigger than the executive branch of a country. As UNDP, we support the parliaments, we support civil society, and we support local governance. Because for us, development is really has to be done at the local level. That's why we empower the local communities to deal with their affairs. But coming back to that now, in our new strategic plan that we're unfolding for 2014-17, we are adding another dimension of governance. When we are doing this national consultation for the post-2015 agenda, we hear the people say it loud and clear, we want the voice of the people to be heard. And we, UNDP, will be investing a lot in supporting this citizens' governance, because without that, development cannot be sustained.
Most people accuse the agency of just meeting top government officials and many others without meeting the local population in the various areas and squads where they live across the world. And one major argument is that there is this political garbage disposal at the headquarters of the agency in New York. What do you respond to them?
Well, I would disagree about that. We are seeing, I mean, I can talk about UNDP. We are seen like the people's agency. Wherever you go, you would see a UNDP office. UNDP will never leave, even whatever the status or the acuity of the conflict is, we are there. We are a people's agency. Look at our motto. It says empowering lives and supporting resilient people. So that's what we are doing as UNDP.
How do you qualify the United Nations today, or United Nations Development Program, 2 years before it celebrates its 50th anniversary? How will you qualify it? I read in some book that it is a critical partner to development. Are you of that same point of view?
Absolutely. Not only intellectually, but even practically. Intellectually, I mean, look, in the 1990s, when we were having all these structural adjustment programs that were really failing to have impact on development, we came with the notion of human development, because we said that development has to be human and has to impact on people.
You sit comfortably and you say that you have been successful when you have a majority of the people still living beyond the $1 line.
Let me give you a comment on this. Success is always relative. Go back some 15 years ago in the 2000s, where you have this massive poverty in Africa. But Africa has grown 5, 6, 7%. Not sufficient, I would grant you, to have a dent on poverty. Why? Because there are still some inequalities there. Why? Because these economies that we have seen are still not structurally transformed. Growth have been coming from enclave economics, some major sectors. That's where, number one, we have to be happy and then congratulate African leaders for leading us forward and creating these booming economies. But we are supporting them to make it more transformational so that it can trickle down into the people. But let me come back to the notion of employment. Employment is not the only game. We should be talking about livelihoods. It's when you develop livelihoods that you are developing people's revenue. And UNDP is, of course, supporting employment generation, but beyond employment, what we do is enhancing people's livelihood.
Well, when you talk to most international figures today, they will tell you that the Central African Republic it's at the threshold of a genocide, and because of the conflict which is going there, which has gone beyond normal proportions. What is the UNDP doing in particular in the Central African Republic to bring that nation to normalcy? Yeah.
I'm really sad when I see what's going on in Central African Republic. That country epitomizes the failure of development and the failure of governance and the failure of leadership.
And you have been operating there for long.
We all failed. But the first who failed are the leaders of that country. They failed their people. We all failed as the international community because we haven't seen it coming fast. We all fail still now because we are not supporting this country with a big-scale support. That's why I say we all fail. And when I look at what's happening in the Central African Republic, I say this is a defeat of